In just about any workplace, there are hidden dangers. We're talking about risks that can turn everyday materials into fuel for a massive explosion. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on DSEAR, a really critical set of safety rules designed to control these exact kinds of invisible threats.
And look, this is what we're talking about. This is the devastating reality of what happens when things go horribly wrong. These aren't just abstract dangers on a piece of paper. The regulations we're about to break down, called DSEAR, were literally created to prevent scenes just like this. The stakes just couldn't be any higher.
Right, so it's super easy to picture explosion risks when you think of, giant chemical plants. But the danger is often way more subtle than that. What happens when the potential fuel for an explosion isn't some liquid in a barrel, but something fine and powdery, just floating around in the air of a totally normal-looking workshop? Okay, let's really get into this, because this is where it gets surprising for a lot of people. We're not just talking about heavy-duty industrial chemicals. No, we're talking about materials you see all the time. Sure, paints and solvents make sense, but get this. Simple flour dust in a bakery or wood dust from a sanding job, under the right conditions, they can form an explosive mixture with the air. That's the invisible threat these rules are all about. So here's our plan. We'll start with that invisible risk, then get into what DSEAR actually is. We'll look at the safety blueprints, how to map out your danger zones, and how to pick the right gear. And then we'll wrap it all up with a summary of what you need to know. Let's do it. All right, so we've laid out the problem, these hidden, sometimes surprising risks. So what's the solution? Well, it's a powerful set of regulations called DSEAR, and you can think of it as your shield against this stuff. So what on earth is DSEAR? Well, it stands for the Dangerous Substances and Explosive Atmospheres Regulations. And really, its whole mission is pretty straightforward: to protect people at work from fires, explosions, and other similar disasters. It's the legal framework that turns workplace safety from a nice idea into a mandatory practice. And DSEAR didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's built on the foundation of the 1974 Health and Safety at Work Act. It also brings some key European safety standards into UK law. Now, one of the most important pieces of that puzzle is the Explosive Atmospheres Directive, which you'll probably hear called ATEX. That's the one that sets the standards for equipment. So you can see this is all part of a well-established international approach to keeping people safe. So how does an employer actually follow these rules? How do you comply with DSEAR? Well, it's not just a big book of don'ts. It's actually a dynamic process, a system. Let's break it down into its three main parts. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this one critical step, the risk assessment. And this is non-negotiable. Regulation 5 makes it crystal clear. Every employer has to carry out a proper, thorough assessment of the risks. This isn't about ticking a box. It is the absolute foundation for every other safety measure you're going to take. But here's what I find really interesting. Check out the actual wording from the regulation itself. The goal isn't just to manage the risk. The number one priority is to eliminate it, get rid of it completely. Only if you can't do that do you move on to reducing and controlling it. This creates a really powerful order of operations. And this is what that priority system, called the hierarchy of control, looks like in practice. First up, substitution. Can you use a water-based paint instead of a solvent-based one? Simple. If that's not possible, then you move to control measures. Okay, can we use smaller amounts? Can we crank up the ventilation? Can we use a closed system so nothing escapes? And then, as the very last line of defense, you mitigate. This means having things like explosion relief panels that can limit the damage if the worst actually happens. Okay, so once you've figured out what your risks are, what's next? Well, you have to figure out precisely where the danger exists in your workplace. And this process has a name. It's called area classification. Now, before you can map anything, you have to know what you're looking for. And that specific thing is called an explosive atmosphere. This isn't just about having a dangerous substance nearby. It's a very specific mix of that substance, as a gas or a vapor or even dust with the air around it. It's a mixture that's basically primed and ready to ignite and go boom. Honestly, the best way to think about area classification is that you are literally creating a danger map of your workplace. You are drawing lines and highlighting the areas where one of these explosive atmospheres is likely to show up. And that map becomes your absolute guide for every safety decision you make in that space. And this map isn't just one big red area. No, it's broken down into zones, almost like a risk level weather map. For gases and vapors, zone 0 is your highest risk. Think about the space inside a fuel tank where that explosive atmosphere is there pretty much constantly. Then you have zone 1, where it might happen every now and then during normal work, like around a nozzle when you're filling something up. And finally, zone 2 is where it's not likely to happen, and if it does, it'll be gone fast, maybe from a small accidental leak. And here's the key takeaway, right? The whole point of this zoning system is that it directly tells you what level of safety you need. It's a simple idea. The higher the zone number, the more likely the danger, and so the tougher your safety controls have to be. Your map tells you exactly how strict to be and where. And that brings us perfectly to the most practical part of all this, using your danger map to choose the right tools for the job. Because think about it, in one of these zoned areas, an ordinary power drill could become a bomb trigger. I mean, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? Your standard equipment, your drill, your shop vac, they create sparks, heat, static, all of which are potential ignition sources. That's why they are absolutely forbidden in most of these zones. And this is where that ATEX certification we mentioned earlier comes in. ATEX certified gear is specially engineered to not create sparks. Using it isn't just a good idea, it's a legal requirement inside these classified danger zones. Okay, we've gone through a lot here, from assessing the risks to drawing up danger maps and picking the right equipment. So let's pull it all together and just summarize the core things an employer has to do under DSEAR. And this checklist really shows you the entire DSEAR process in action. See how it all flows together? You assess the risks, then you either eliminate or control them. You classify the hazardous zones, and then you avoid ignition sources by using the correct ATEX equipment. And finally, you back all that up with good emergency plans, proper training for your employees, and making sure you coordinate with anyone else on site. It's a complete start-to-finish system. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the blueprint for preventing disaster and managing those invisible dangers that can be present in any workplace. DCAR gives you the framework for finding the risks, mapping them out, and putting the right controls in place. The only real question left is, how well is that blueprint being followed where you work?